Tony, again, I give you accolades for, I don't even know what to say, for all the efforts, man, that you have put in my behalf. My own son has not put in that kind of effort. And as you know, my oldest son died because he would not listen to what I was saying. So if he's not my adopted son, then I say he's the best businessman to take over a business like I wanted somebody else to do. He's gone and done it. So enough of my chatter. Thank you so much, everybody.
Know your worth, queens. Queens, know your worth. All right. Okay, greetings everyone on this Saturday, January 2nd, 2021. Let us have a short conversation about the moon, witchery, and one truly knowing their worth. I'm not going to expose any of the most prized rights of many spiritual organizations across the planet who are typically left-hand path because there's no need to. But I'm going to expose a very specific aspect of the nonsense, so those of you who will take the time to listen will enter, and understand what is being said without all of it having to be so. Just know all of their secrets and reasons why they do what they do are known. They are known, and all is only for a time as the morning star shares its light. There are rites and rituals given by humans, and then there are rites and rituals given by the one where all spawns from. Know the difference. One is above the other. The ongoings and witchery of those who worship the moon for sake of the elect and clarity for all the superhumans and oracles across the planet. The moon has many phases, which are first quarter, new moon, third quarter, and the full moon. There are also other phases which come about only during certain alignments, and then there is the waxing and waning, which is a phase when the moon's apparent shape is thickening from new to a full moon, and waning when the shape is thinning. It has been stated by the Grand Master Dr. Delbert Blair that the moon is an artificial satellite, meaning it wasn't always there in our night sky. But let's not only take the Grand Master's word and research for it. There are many other people, cultures, and organizations who have said the same. Some are. The first evidence that the moon may not be what we think it is came on November 20th, 1969. According to the History Channel, the Apollo 12 launch vehicle crashed into the moon, and upon impact, the moon was recorded by a seismograph to have rung like a bell for nearly an hour. This was very unexpected and mystified the scientists. This is evidence that concludes that the moon may be hollow. The moon has tens of thousands of craters of various sizes covering the surface. However, all of the craters have the same exact or similar depth. This suggests to scientists that there may be some sort of metallic barrier underneath the surface protecting it from damage. What? Next. But in the 60s, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Skarsgård of the Academy of Sciences of the USSR put forward the hypothesis that in reality our satellite was created by artificial means. The calculations showed that the orbit of motion and the size of the moon are physically impossible. Distance from the moon to the earth is such that the size of the sun and the moon seem visually identical, which is not found anywhere else. This is what allows Earth to observe this rare phenomenon of total solar eclipse when the moon completely covers the sun. The same mathematical impossibility is the ratio of the mass of both celestial bodies. Next, an ancient In ancient writings and traditions, one can find proof of a time when the moon did not exist. Democritus and Anaxagoras mentioned that there was a time when no moon could be seen in the night skies. In describing the history of the Greek region of Arcadia, Aristotle writes that the Pleiadians lived in the area since very old times, at a time when the moon did not exist. Apollonius from Rhodes mentions something similar. He talks about a time when not all of the celestial objects existed in the sky. Before the time of the Colians and Pharaoh's generation, before the so-called cataclysm, when the moon did not exist and the only humans that existed were the Pelagians living on the mountains of Arcadia. These inhabitants of Arcadia were also known as Brazilians, meaning those that were before moon in Greek. In Plutarch's work Morals, we find the following. There were Arcadians of Evander's following, the so-called pre-lunar people. Similarly, Ovid wrote, the Arcadians are said to have possessed their land before the birth of Zeus, and the folk is older than the moon. Stephanus of Byzantium wrote, Arcadians existed before the moon. Herodotus refers to a legend that Arcadia brought forth Pelagus of greater antiquity than the moon. Lucanus, in his astrology, says that the Arcadians affirm in their folly that they are older than the moon. Evidence has also been found in other parts of the world. In Bolivia, symbols on the wall of the courtyard of Kali Sasya, built in 13,000 BC, provide evidence that the moon came into orbit around the earth at a specific moment in time thousands of years ago, long before what mainstream historians refer to as recorded history. Moreover, the calendar gate in the same site provides evidence that a smaller satellite or moon-like object once rotated around the earth. So there was another moon planet-like object that rotated or went around the earth that was not the moon and predated the moon. The oral traditions of Colombian Indians of Bogota Highlands of Colombia refer to a time before the moon. In the earliest times when the moon was not yet in the heavens, say the tribesmen, Africa also provides its own evidence. According to Zulu legend, the moon was brought hundreds of generations ago by two brothers of alien form, Wuwani and Mupanku. So now let's bring us to after the moon is in the night sky, and a word that was created thereafter. This word is lunatic. What does lunatic mean? It means a person who is affected by lunacy, a mentally deranged person, a very foolish person, affected by lunacy, mentally deranged, of or for people who are mentally deranged, wildly or giddily foolish. But let us look up at the etymology of the word lunatic. Let's see where it derives its meaning. Late 13th century, affected with periodic insanity dependent on the changes of the moon. From Old French, lunatic, spelled a little bit different, means insane, or directly from late Latin, lunaticus, moonstruck. Wow, all these references directly referring to the moon. Compare the Old English moonzock, which means lunatic, literally moon sick. Then among the wise and high-minded people who in self-respecting and genuine fashion strive earnestly for peace, there are foolish fanatics always to be found in such a movement, and always discrediting it. Those who form the lunatic fringe in all reform movements. That was from Theodore Roosevelt in his autobiography of 1913. Wow. So let's go deeper. Even though we look at certain behavior as normal, and even the abnormal behavior just as something, of course, not normal, but not anything you would call insane. But the reality of it is, many of the people you see around us walking around, acting crazy, spazzing out, acting belligerent, or what we call even ghetto, ratchet, etc., are all in some form of lunacy. Under, inner, and overstandness. Some examples of this, these people, just because someone says it is okay, kill their unborn multiple times. They look at their companions, whether male or female, as something to be used like a tool, to be thrown away, etc. We have become accustomed to such behavior, and to look at this behavior as just something going through a phase. Now, I'm not talking about children or teenagers. I'm talking about grown people, adults, those who should have much more sense, but indeed, we see, don't we? Let us go even deeper. Many of you have heard the segment of the podcast put out a few days ago called All Debts Must Be Paid. And how all across the world, including in the United States, specifically on the East Coast and the South, the deep dirty, many covens are popping up, and these entities trying to bring in those to be used. They are the dead anyway, so it's okay, right? Right? It's okay. Right? Or wrong? So, these people, now I'm simplifying it, okay? They worship the moon, and they are typically female. They look at the moon as a deity because the moon, this artificial satellite, controls their monthly cycles, which is their menstrual cycle. A woman's cycles coincide with the phases of the moon, and even at times when it waxes and wanes. This is when a woman may notice her cycle comes early or late, and it coincides with the way the moon waned in that period of time. It is alluded to that before this moon was in the night sky, women didn't have menstrual cycles at all, and her mind was whole and clear with thought. But now it takes work. But just because this artificial satellite affects the menstrual cycle, doesn't mean you are supposed to worship it. Does this mean you are supposed to sacrifice objects or animals or even humans to it? Does this mean you are supposed to do ceremonies, rituals, etc. to invoke within the energies of it? Does it mean you're supposed to do that? I mean, it's either yes or no. It's either yes. It's not about anything. It's yes or no. I thought you were greater than that. Know your worth, queens. Queens. Know your worth. Doesn't the woman's existence predate the arrival of the moon? This artificial satellite? Which means before this moon was there, this false light, there was something greater. And that greater still is. But they in question refuse to acknowledge the true light. So they settle on the false light because they are in wickedness. They are lunatics. Oracles and superhumans across the planet, notice them in their ways. They are and can be classified as the Muwa, okay? M-U-W-A, the Muwa as well. But let's give some specific attributes for you to watch for. Typically, you will find that the entity will be alone as far as relationship-wise, or she will go through relationships like you go through toilet paper. She, and typically it's a she, will not have a companion, even though she may have many seeds, aka children. When they do have a male companion, it is usually only for a time because they are only a tool to be used and then discarded. Hence, the epidemic of single mothers, even with the statistically verified amount of fathers who want to be involved in their children's lives, but literally cannot be because they are not allowed due to the witchery They were only a tool to be used, not to create balance or not to create any form of nourishment. No, they were to be utilized and used and just thrown away, of course. They also used the males for committing violent acts on their behalf. The only thing they typically respect is other women. But, and a big but, that is only if you are giving them what they want. Most importantly, the oracles worldwide, male and female, but especially the female oracles, watch out for them. This is especially to you all who of course have, young girls, right? And you see the light within their eyes. You see the aloofness that they have, the gracefulness that they naturally exhibit. Watch out for them, as one of their most important missions is to defile the oracle by any means. They hate you. And the reason why they hate the oracle is because of the gift that they were born with, that attracts the divine within their womb, which they do not have. And they hate that even if you are without the knowledge of self, you still somehow know to hold on to your essence, to not allow any man internally unless he is the man. So they will tell you, as we see all over social media, from those who are older and should have much more sense. We see people 40, 50, 60 years old on all these even TV programs and things, right? And they will tell you to live it up, experience and date many men, have a good time, get it in, girl. And the men they will get involved with are usually the tools of the witches to take your essence and to defile your womb by impregnating you with unholy seeds. They will tell you to not look at your other half, the male, as anything other than something to be used, to take from, etc. They will tell you all this under the pretense that this will make you stronger or happy or somehow fulfilled in life. But yet, look at them. Don't be waxed or waned by the emotional platitudes. Typically, they're vile-natured, companionless. Okay? Typically, they're vile-natured and companionless, not worth any man, let alone a man of an oracle to wed, and unhappy. No matter what they say or do, their soul spark is corrupted forever so. And because they are lunatics, ones who worship a false light, they seek to corrupt. And they seek to bring others into this corruption. They seek those who are innocent or just plain naive to use them as tools for their wickedness. As the world enters into yet another unholy time, put on your armaments, unsheath your sword, and raise your shield. Protect by all means those of the Creator. Family, brothers and sisters, superhumans, oracles, brotherhood and sisterhood of light, the cult of feminine natured, the seventh heaven oligarch, the mystery men of the unbothered, those outside of the prism, those who dwell willingly within the square to help others, most importantly, the source of all, who allow your light still within a world of darkness and prayers that penetrate even the most thick skulls, who meditate and give your adept strength across the galaxy to accomplish untold missions to bring about the true unity as we all move toward internal singularity. And so it is.
Doing a lot of astral traveling nowadays because I stay out of my body as much as I do in my body. And for those of you, but I can't imagine who that would be, but you might be listening for the first time as the word gets out that the Meta Center is still broadcasting. Tony is still bringing you information. And from time to time, when able, I'll bring you my information, at least on a physical plane through the voice. And there is so many things happening and so much that I would like to kind of state as a bottom line. And I really should start with the trite stuff first, but I won't. The Illuminati from various United States and other countries, and almost every country here that they consider to be world leaders and those that can devastate, kill, and direct other people. Of course, they're meeting with the Dracons on Nibiru. They've already gone there. And they're trying to avoid what they call the good guys. Those are what they call the United Planetary Alliance. They are scared stiff that since they're unnumbered almost 1 billion to 1, when you look at those in the United Planetary Alliance versus those that they represent, and they're really frightened. Not only are they afraid of what they're doing, but they're afraid of themselves because the serpents will literally eat them up. It's just that simple. One of the reasons, and Tony brought this out, and I wanted to add my 1 cent to it, the Planned Parenthood officers are having fundraisers and stuff again for this again. Anybody, of course, any baby that comes there, especially if that baby has melanin, because melanin is what allows you to live in the flesh and out of the flesh equally. It allows you to take sun rays and energy rays and process them faster, going cells faster, reacting faster. This is what melanin does. So always remember that whatever you have in tissue that has melanin is worth more than that doesn't.